There's what we say, and then there's what we don't. And often it's the unspoken that holds the most power. Welcome to the Unspoken Edge, a space where hidden dynamics, quiet tensions, and unacknowledged truths are named, held, and turned into grounded action. I'm Rachel Keck, coach, facilitator, and founder of Mosaic Collaborative. I work with visionary leaders who want growth that's sustainable, relational, and real. Here, we explore what's beneath the surface, the energy under leadership, the patterns, resistance, and the truth shaping how we lead and live. In every episode, we'll name what's missing, hold what's tense, and follow the thread to what's real. Because clarity creates traction, and legacy, it's not just what you leave behind, it's how you lead today. Let's begin. Okay, everybody is in for a big treat today because it is the Craig Forman. And I feel like Craig's famous, which I told him earlier. He feels like he's famous in my world. Craig and I met in 2019. And Craig built, well, I don't know if built is the right word, but anyways, Culture First Community through Culture Amp when you were at Culture Amp, and I don't know even what to say. Life-changing. Knowing you has been like transformative for my personal, professional journey. You are, a space holder, a pioneer, just a thought partner. I don't know. You're amazing, and I'm very excited about this conversation. It's going to be high energy. So what do you want to say about yourself?
I want to say I'm flattered. Thank you. Oh my gosh. A lot of introductions, but we do know each other a long time, both professionally and personally. And that means a lot. And it's wild to hear, and I appreciate it. And it's, I guess, a testament to hard work, even in my life where, I wanted to find my thing and had worked hard at it and found it. And then to have impact is kind of amazing. What do I want to share? I want to share that for anybody that listens to this, that just to know that my career path was not some straight line. Like I had it all figured out. It took a long time. My parents split when I was young. There was a lot of moving around. I first felt, I knew I loved people, but I started honing that in that time when I was, dealing with moving around, having to fit in. And so I leaned a lot on that, understanding people. I was curious about people. I wanted to probably manipulate situations or whatever just to fit. But it was the first time I knew that it just was clear to me that was something in me. I spent time in the military to pay for college, got my undergraduate degree, and then came out to California and kind of set up my life and got going and have crafted the career. I went back to school and got my master's in org psych, and I think that was probably a big turning point. I knew that if, as I was trying to navigate my own journey in the professional world, just following the path and getting an MBA wasn't going to work for me. And when it was time to put that kind of commitment and energy into something, the org psych called me, and that mixed with being in the Bay Area when tech, picked up, I kind of got on with HR tech and kept finding my way, and spent time at LinkedIn or a company called Achievers doing recognition and rewards, but then landing at Culture Amp in 2017 was pretty pivotal. And getting to take a lot of what I had learned and grown and seen and my own passion mixed with getting to work with this tool that was helping organizations quantify and make sense of culture and people. It was incredibly powerful. And I think mixed with my ability to facilitate, I could help organizations take insights and turn them quickly into action. And I did that, so I was at Culture Amp, but Culture Amp was growing, and we, got to build the community and put in events, which were other things that I kind of sort of had in me, but I had the opportunity to let out. But my work always centered around, my purpose is to help the world work better by improving the places we work. I got clear on that early, and that's what drives me. And 2 years ago, I started Culture C Consulting, and that's what I do today, helping organizations really that are at the stage where they're investing in tools around people and culture, but are limited. Their teams are limited. Just because you buy a piece of software is not going to do it. And there's great software out there, but really helping organizations make the most of these tools and get the most out of them when it comes to, I think I can help simplify organizations, making sense of people and culture, and then being intentional about building the cultures that are going to be effective for what you're trying to achieve. So all of that, and every day I get up and keep pushing forward and doing new things and learning and growing. And I love this space and this work. And that was a long introduction, so I'll stop now.
No, it was so good. Well, what I so appreciate about you, I mean, you have this wonderful mix of like forward movement action, but also this tender, loving, like space awareness sort of piece of yourself. I mean, you definitely are bent to action, which I appreciate, and I'm sure people can tell by just how you talk that you are an action-oriented person. But there's just this depth that comes along with it that I really appreciate.
It's interesting. You know, if you probably describe me to somebody, say he's action oriented, at least in the story I come up with, what I might imagine a person like that is would not be me. I don't lean hard on like on the Myers Briggs, on like the J, or I'm not directive like that. So I hear what you're saying, but I am action oriented, and I think that what I've learned, like that's been my whole journey, is like if it was as easy as to go in and say do this or do that, we would have figured it out.
Yeah.
And I think what I've learned in my thing with, like particularly with Culture Amp and using tools like Culture Amp, if I can walk in with good reliable data that people believe in, and I can use that as the starting point, um, then we can get to action. So I think that's a big piece. And what was the other thing I was going to say? Oh, the other thing I was going to say is just, in my journey, that question people have said, like, well, how would others describe you? I remember in an interview, it was like, well, what's your superpower? And I went and asked people. And what came back didn't surprise me, but it always stuck with me. And it's like, I think one of my big superpowers is disarming. So I think what you're talking about is this ability to walk into a space and disarm people. And when people are disarmed, when they feel safe, what can happen is amazing. So I mean, I guess I'm saying this out loud. How much doesn't happen in this world because we don't let our guards down, which is fine. It's not a safe world. But if we could work more to be like, this is me reflecting on that action oriented person that's not super like do this, do that, what I would imagine an action oriented person. I think what I figured out was if you can get people to like feel safe and let their guard down, they can figure out their own way towards action.
Mm, that's making me think of 50 bajillion things we could talk about. But I'm going to hone in on one question for you.
Okay.
Here's a question. What is one truth that you've had to name that changed how you show up? So one truth that you've really had to name internally, right, about your inner world that actually has changed how you show up externally. And in what a leadership, just in the world, and maybe it's recent, maybe it's just a big one in the past.
Yeah. Am I allowed to? Can we use adult words here? Should I?
We can use adult words. Yes, this is an adult podcast.
What comes to mind for me, I'm sure if I push myself, there's probably others. But what comes to mind for me was a realization probably about 10 years ago where I had to come to terms with, I really care what other people think about me, and I don't give a fuck what other people think about me. And so it's two things, but it's really one to me, and it's honoring my truth that I do care, that I do want to be liked, that I do, I don't. I mean, I know there's people that walk around that really are stoic in that way, that they don't care. It's fine. But also, I realized how much I was doing things because of that. And I think for me to finally evolve to my fullest, I had to honor, respect that, and then move from a place of like, if I've done my work and I can look in the mirror honestly and say, I know what my values are, I'm in integrity. Not everybody's gonna like me all the time, and it might hurt, but I'm okay with that. And like, it freed me. It freed me to like, because it was not owning both sides of that was I think kind of holding me back, and that, so yeah, that comes up, that like sitting with the reality that I can move from a place of like, I'm going to show up and I can be okay if you don't like me, and I know I'd like for you to like me.
Paradox. It's so interesting. It's like that Joseph Campbell quote about the cave you fear holds the treasure that you seek, right? About it, and it is really honoring and loving that part that cares so much, that frees up the part that doesn't give a fuck.
And let's be real, right? You know about me. I mean, we got to know each other, but a big part of your experience of me is that I was willing to go on LinkedIn and post off, and then I share videos, and then I do things. And when people talk to me about that over the years, they get fixated on the content. What I realized is like, the content's easy once you decide that you're willing to have a voice and put it out. I mean, for me, and probably for a lot of people, you can have all the content in the world. If you're scared what people can think of you, you're going to be frozen. So to do that, to do what I did, for you to know me that way, for me at least, is a, like I have to let go, or I'll overthink everything, or I won't put stuff out. And, um, yeah, 10 years later, I can say it's funny now. I do things that almost made me freeze 10 years ago. Now it's like whatever, I don't care. Like just you keep moving. So it's how you normalize the edge a little bit.
In the edge. What I was just having a coffee with a friend this morning, and we were having this conversation about I mean, basically authentic vulnerability, right? I mean, just saying it, just saying the thing, doing the thing, being out loud about it. Um, what I mean, I want to know more about like just the journey to get there. I mean, 10
Well,
years is a
first, when you
lot
say
of
being out loud
practice.
about it, what comes to mind for me first to say to anybody, like, I think anytime we learn something new and lean into it, we want to be out loud about it. What I learned was like out loud about it is living it. Out loud about it is just being it. People see it and spot it. And I too, there's times where see me, see this, or when I was first doing some of this, and I'll talk a little bit maybe about my journey. But I just want to iterate. It just came to mind. Like being out loud about that is like not being some person on a stage professing that this is how it is. What I've learned is when you do it, like when you truly integrate, when you show up honest and vulnerable, when you get on a stage in 2019 and talk about masculinity like, but it's what Brene said. Like the truth is, vulnerability is courage, and when you show up and you just do it, it's super. People are attracted into it, the right ones. So when you say show up loud, I just want to say to anybody, like showing up loud is not just professing something. Showing up loud is show up loud with your actions. Um, my journey, look, there's a lot of pieces. I went through a lot growing up. I'm a bit of a survivor. I think I had to have my head down to survive and figure it out. And then finally, when things stabilized, I could pick my head up and start to do some of the work and unpack some of the stuff. And this is probably 12, 13 years ago for me, but I did a men's week. I'd never done anything. I'd never done anything like that. I was always interested in that kind of stuff. And I heard some people talk about it. So I just decided. I had two kids. I was just kind of like figuring out what's next. So long story short, I did this weekend. It was basically a men's retreat kind of thing. And what I realized there was I had a lot of work to do in with myself in relation to other men, which I hadn't thought about, and the shit I saw growing up. Which now, I mean, like I think about how I can work with executives and in boardrooms, like because I got some experience around being around a loud, angry man. Like, okay, I can sit with that. But that used to freak me out, right? So those sorts of things. But where that led was, look, and I'll say this: a lot of people that may listen to this have done a weekend or done a retreat. That's great. It was awesome. But I guarantee if I came home and just stopped, it would eventually slip back. It lit something in me, and then I ended up, because I couldn't find one close to me, started a men's circle, and that circle's still alive today. But I was part of it for 10 years, and so it started with my own work. That's probably the biggest thing is like week in, week out, not some big sexy weekend. Really go into a space, an intentional space where I could support others to be seen, and when I needed, I could be seen. I could be vulnerable. I could lean into taking the lead, lean into like this week is not my week to lead. Let somebody else lead. Like all those things, and having a space. And I'm really intentionally calling out. Like I think it was just as powerful when I started. I think I needed something, and I created what I needed. But over time, I realized I created something that supported so many others, and that duality of being able to provide but also get was super powerful. And it was that work, which was very quiet for me a long time. I didn't even talk about it because I didn't want judgment. It was something I was doing. But as a man, speaking to other probably men out there, like starting with getting a relationship with myself and how I had been treated and thought about things from that perspective, and starting to like really think, and like integrity, accountability were big components of the work that we were doing. And that was really powerful. And it was the slow change. It was the work. Like there's no magic bullet to any of this. There's no mushroom. There's no therapy. Like they're all tools to help us. And it's the work, it's the practice, and continue.
Yeah, I love how how you're talking about the slow change, and you notice, I don't know, you said so many things that we could go deep into, but um it's the how that starts to change living out loud. How you make choices and what you speak up about, and like all those things begin to change when you acknowledge these parts.
And I'd say to anybody that's hearing this and wants to do it, like the grace that goes along with it, meaning we all have some edge, we all have some, things that we probably want to work on. And the idea that you're going to go to work tomorrow and have that difficult conversation, finally stand up for yourself, like that sounds great, but really, like you have been able to have your whole life, you have things in between. Where's the laboratory? Where's the place to go work it out? And I think that's what I got out of that. That if I was sitting there struggling with a difficult conversation in my relationship or at work, that I could go somewhere and say, yeah, this is going on. And they'd be like, all right, well, who do you want to be your boss? Rick, you're my boss. Let's do it. Like, and it sounds maybe a little whatever. It is role play, but like the power of being able, when we're trying on new things,
Yeah.
like if I just gave you a chainsaw and said, go use it, you probably hurt somebody. Like, so where do you practice with the chainsaw? Where do you like learn and hone that skill so you can cut a tree down and without hurting anybody? What are the rules? And I think that's what I found that I think so many people don't have. The desire is there, but where do you work it out? Because it's high stakes if you're going to go have that conversation with your boss. You might lose your job, and maybe some of that shit's about you, and you need to look at that before you go have that conversation so you can have it in the best way. And I want for more people to have a safe place to work out the hard shit and be sloppy, and you don't do that in high stakes environments.
Yeah. Yeah, I think about that a lot with leaders. Like if you're valuing authenticity and integrity and stretching yourself and growing and like you said, normalizing the edges and like pushing and pushing, that growth edge, you do need you can't be on Bambi legs and going and leading your team
Yeah,
with
who's going to
Bambi
follow somebody on
legs.
Bambi legs?
You can't do it. Yeah, you've got to have a place where you can practice, which to me is why relationship is so important. I mean, whether it's, relationship across the board, I mean, at work and at home and in our lives, like having these relationships where we can really practice these edges, practice saying something differently, or offering space or whatever. I mean, I think our relationships are such an important
By the way,
laboratory.
home is high stakes, right? Like having a difficult conversation with a partner that needs to be had. I mean, even that, like, isn't it nice to maybe work it out a little bit before to make sure you get it right? I'm just, and you said something that's really interesting. I'll give an example of like a powerful thing so the way we ran the circle is every week there'd be somebody led the circle. So it was not I led the circle for 10 years. The circle was created and every week we rotated or somebody picked who was going to be next. And where I'm going with that is some men were scared of leadership, had not naturally stepped into it, wanted it, saw it, but had whatever stories, whatever was going on for them or who they were. And you couldn't skip too many weeks, meaning there would be a week where the guy that didn't really naturally lean towards leading had to step up and lead. And you know what? It's okay. If they didn't do it well, like they could get feedback from us. And we loved them. We cared about them. And oftentimes, I saw it over the years. I don't want anybody to be anything they're not, but those men were like starting to unlock. And you're like, cool. Like they wanted it. They just never had a place. And it was shut down anytime they tried to assert themselves. And to say like, here's a whole bunch of men, number one. So for, men that can be intimidating, lead us. We got you. Think about the power of that. So I guess to anybody, I'd say, what's the thing in your life you really want? Where do you get to hone it and practice it? And how have you created a place or space that you can like work on it? Because this idea that you're going to show up one day and be different is just not real.
Yeah. Yeah, it takes so many little micro movements.
Support and feedback, trying it out, being safe. You can try these things when you're not safe. You can try to, be in control for the first time when you're not used to it. You might like be a little over the top. Like you don't want to hurt somebody at home, but like, okay, we got you.
What do you think? I mean, because I will say, I'll just reflect to you, you're really good at creating these spaces. I feel like that was a lot during COVID, the space we had, in the culture first community. What do you, I just like real, like, what do you think is the biggest barrier?
People don't understand how to set up a good container, honestly. And when there's no container, it's super scary and unsafe. Even me, I'm not going to walk into a room in a professional environment and just like, there's a subtle skill that I picked up on that I don't think at first I got. So number one, it starts with being really clear about intention and so even in work, like Why are we meeting? What's the goal of this? Are we all in agreement of that, right? Number one. Number two, so why are we here? So that's the getting there. Why are we here? What are we here for? Number two is agreements or guidelines or rules. Like, I think if you're really going to go there and have a meeting, like, do we have agreements on how we're going to communicate? Do we have agreements on what's going to happen if someone feels uncomfortable? Like, how do we handle conflict when it comes up? I mean, and build it for what you're dealing with. Like culture first, believe me, I took a lot from the work I did in those men's circles and infused it, but I definitely, it wasn't as high stakes. So, but we had our guidelines and how we were going to show up that we agreed upon, right? So I think setting that, right, and then connection before you get into the stuff. Can you? And this is this is that thing. I'm like, oh, it's easy, but I realize that we all think the things we're good at are easy. This is maybe we have to work. How many people won't do an icebreaker? And I honestly believe they won't do it because they're scared of what they hear and they won't know how to respond. And like the reality is, it can be simple and you don't have to respond. It's just about but people don't. It's fear. They don't do that stuff. But if you can form a little bit of connection before you ask people to go to that next stage, that's really, especially if it's not like men's circle is like a little more intense, but like in work, you saw what we did in culture first. Come together. Who are we? Why are we here? What are our core agreements? Which is one of the few asks we had of anybody that ran a meeting was like go over our core principles, and then we focus on connection and action, and then close. Close is critical. I'd say that too. Anybody that's running a meeting, don't. It's like an unresolved. Like if you hear a song that gets cut halfway through, it in your soul. Try to wrap up your meetings. Like when people come together, it's like that moment is going to be over. Gratitude, reflection, final thoughts, but don't run out of time. I think if people can hit those pieces, that's an oversimplification, but the answer is learning how to build a solid container for whatever you're doing. I don't care if you're looking at a spreadsheet or if you're going in there to talk about some of the biggest problems happening in your organization.
One of the first things I work on with people is receptivity. And that is what setting that container, it makes you receptive. It makes all the people, I mean, it kind of calms your nervous system too, right? I
It
mean,
does.
there's so
And
many
times I've
things.
walked into a leadership team and you realize like we're never going to get anywhere. No one has dealt. There's so much baggage at the table. And
Yeah.
how are we going to get work done if we don't have a chance for some people to clear some shit? And I think if you can spot that, and now this is where the next level comes up of a good facilitator, spotting it and being able to help people through clearing some of that out. But here's what I will say: you're never going to get the work done if all that stuff under the surface is not resolved. And I'm pissed at you because you've taken over 3 of the last 4 meetings and you did X, Y, and Z, and now we're trying to have a conversation about how to work together. Like it needs to be
Yeah.
dealt with, or you're not going to get there.
Yeah. True. Um, ugh, I mean, we could go 50 million places and we could talk for 50 million hours, I feel like, but
Let's make sure we wrap this up
let's do, let's
appropriately.
do have our nice little close. Is there anything else that you want to say specifically in this space before we do wrap up?
I'd say that it just came to me as we're talking, but look, so I help organizations run surveys and I do like listening and employee engagement, which is really cool. But there's a question. There's a question that sometimes flies under the radar often. A lot of organizations ask a question like this, something to the effect of when there's conflict, we do something about it. And it constantly is one of the lowest scoring scores. And it's easy to focus on open and honest two-way communication, very important. Setting vision. Does my manager support me? All the things that you think of. I think managing conflict is the hidden key in all of this, and it's the one thing when we get large groups of people together, and I hold some space for us as humans. Sometimes we opt for, and there's always a balance of what's the word I'm looking for, like stability or harmony. And conflict is not harmony; it's opposite. But avoiding conflict, I find that teams and organizations that really look and work on this and have frameworks and structures in place to support conflict, when people can navigate through conflict and get to the other side and they're healthy and they're in one piece and they made it through, it's so powerful. And it's one that just kind of like seems to get, it's like we're trying to build great culture, we need to avoid conflict. And I'd say I don't think when you get people together, conflict is natural. How do we manage it? So that's the like the hidden sleeper that I think I wish more organizations did better.
And you end up so much stronger
Always.
after navigating. Yeah. All
Oh, I
right.
need to give thanks to my wife for this one too. I don't want to
Yeah.
be sure to call all the people because believe me, when I first met my wife, I was not strong at sticking around, and there were many times it was like, no, you're staying here. You're gonna like go through the other sex. In my family, we bolted. So it's a journey. It's not easy,
Mm.
and like we can do it in safer ways and have guidelines and boundaries in our workplaces.
Yes. Okay. Where can people find you, Craig?
Always LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. You can get me on LinkedIn. And then Culture C, the letter C, culturec.com. All things my work, what we're doing, what we're up to, webinars. Super excited about where we've gone with that. So please check that out. Join our newsletter. Get in touch. Reach out to me if there's any way I can support your help.
I'm so grateful for the work you're doing. I'm grateful for who you are. I'm grateful that I'm alive at the same time as you and
I'm
ran
grateful
into you.
that of all these people on this planet, we cross paths and that you are a friend and a colleague, and I'm grateful for you as well.
Our guests bring such clarity and depth. If you want to explore more of their work, you'll find links in the show notes. And thank you, listener, for joining me on the Unspoken Edge, the place where we name what's missing so you can lead from what matters. If something resonated with you today, share this episode with a friend or a colleague. Leave a review or subscribe so you don't miss what's next. And if you're navigating unseen tensions in your leadership or culture, let's connect. You'll find me at mosaiccollaborative.com, because legacy isn't a final chapter. It's what you live into, one conversation at a time.